Welcome. Scott here. Sorry for the delay on the boss guide. This is a global first event, so it took me some time to research the fight until I feel comfortable to do a boss guide for it. As mentioned in my community post, I have a busy work schedule lately, so do pardon me if I miss out any critical information for the guide. The fight features some interesting and nasty mechanics that will make this fight a challenging one. We will be fighting two bosses, the Guardian and the King Behemoth. Both of them has 18 million HP each. Both enemies are immune to freeze and debuffs that prevent action. The turn requirement for the fight is 60, and you are required to bring an unique weapon unit for full complete mission clear. Firstly, let's cover the LUFENIA Orb. The orb will be activated at the start of the fight at the counter of 10 for each unit. The LUFENIA countdown ability for Guardian is non-fatal. It is an AOE BRV+HP attack that will delete your unit's subsequent turns. However, the LUFENIA countdown ability for King Behemoth is fatal. So it is your best interest to finish off the Behemoth first. To uptick the orb, you need to deal 850,000 HP damage to the target in one turn. However, the uptick is only 2. If you delay the Guardian, it will uptick the orb by another 2. Both enemies have a party setup restrictive downtick condition. If you deal any form of brave damage, whether it is magic, melee, or ranged, it will downtick the orb by 3. For example, you deal an AOE brave damage for both enemies, it will downtick both orb by 3. If you deal AOE brave damage and 850k damage to Behemoth, it will downtick the orb by 1 on the Behemoth and downtick the orb by 3 on the Guardian. Skills that don't deal brave damage won't downtick the orb. For example, if you deal 850k HP damage without dealing any brave damage, it will uptick the orb by 2. If you deal no brave damage and less than 850k HP, there will be no changes to the orb. Unit targeting is an important aspect to take note of when you are doing this fight. On the screen, you will see a timeline for both enemies and the LUFENIA auras. I won't cover too much on the Guardian, as the auras trigger are pretty much the norm for standard LUFENIA fights. It will activate the Kraken program at the 79% HP threshold. After it takes its turn, it will switch the program as the battle progresses. Let's focus on the real annoying boss for this fight, the King Behemoth. At the 49% and 29%, it will cut its turn, where it will gain 2 instant turns. All its actions have HP damage enabled in it. So it is important to take note of it when you threading past those thresholds. I will talk more about the King Behemoth in the later part of the guide. As the fight is pretty restrictive, I will go directly with my recommendations by grouping them by a specific function. To avoid downtick the orb, you need to avoid doing brave damage as much as possible. However, it is quite a tall order, as most of the units in the game have brave damage in their kit. Counters units or units with follow-up damage will make the fight even harder, as their follow-up damage will downtick the orb faster than you could uptick the orb. So if you need to deal brave damage, it is important that you make use out of it the best possible way. You need to ensure that you are dealing 850k damage per action, so the downtick will only be 1. So technically, this fight is actually a damage race. For units that don't downtick the orb, you can consider the following units: Selphie, Lotta, X-Death, Purim, Ursula, Ignis, and Lena. For Lena, she will be getting her C90 awakenings in the coming days, so you can consider bringing her after that. But she is still working fine for the current fight. Being Synergy, Selphie, and Lotta are obviously the best recommended units. Selphie Rapture debuff has a great upgrade with her C90 awakening, that it is no longer downticking as you damage the boss, thus making the boss always launchable as long as the debuff is active on the boss. She is one of the best support units for the upcoming era. I would highly recommend you to get her if you don't have her. X-Death don't have brave hits for his entire kit. Purim has brave hits on her LD. Other than that, she will be fine, and her damage mitigation will also help to ensure the party is safe for the constant damage onslaught by the bosses. Lena doesn't have any brave hits on her LD and her HP, Dragon Breath. She provide powerful auras and healing. Ursula don't have brave hits on her special HP attack, Tenshaha, and her S2. Her break immunity and max brave floor will come handy here. Ignis don't have any brave hits if you have him in his pastry stance. His turn manipulation could be very useful. You can also boost the party HP damage with his Sage Fire debuffs. Amidalion is also great for its turn deletion utility. However, as it will be lacking a lot of offensive punch, your other party members will need to shoulder the bulk of the offensive output. In order to deal 850k damage constantly, launching is almost a necessity. For the units, you can consider Sid Reigns, Ramza, Kais, Noctis, Cloud, and Selphie. Kais will plays an integral part for non-Selphie team comps. Ramza and Cloud are probably the best offensive BT units for this fight. You can also use heavy-hitting units like Machina, Enacross, Locke, Tifa, and Noel. But you need to ensure that you have some form of auras to ensure you are able to meet the 850k HP damage requirements. Stacking BT auras and buffs is an important concept for handling a damage race fight like this one. As the behemoth has a lot of HP attacks, it is important to bring damage mitigation. Being synergy, Zac is the best damage mitigation available for the fight. Other units that offer decent mitigation, you can consider bringing Leela, Warrior of Light and Locke. Leela can abuse an infinite loop on the Guardian as the Guardian's countdown ability is a non-guaranteed hit. When using Locke or Bash, do beware that the behemoth's double HP Meteor plus attack could bypass the HP won't drop below 50% resistance. So always keep your party HP high. Units with party-wide last stand like Purim and Queen could also be useful for this fight as well. Recommended calls ability. As the behemoth will warp its turn forward at the 49% and 29% HP threshold, you can consider bringing Warrior of Light LDCA for the damage mitigation when you are breaching past the HP threshold. You can also considering bring Cater LDCA to freeze the behemoth's brave gain. The boss is immune to the generic freeze debuff, otherwise Setzer will be a good option here. You can also use Radia Call for the guaranteed evasion. As avoiding brave hits is an important aspect to avoid unnecessary downticking of the orb, you can consider the following calls: X-Death, Lily-Set, and Amidalion. Lily-Set base call don't have brave hits but her LDCA has. Other than it does no brave hits, Amidalion's turn deletion is very useful to ensure you have the turns to do full party launches. Since you can't freeze the brave totally, you can drain the brave gain with poison and sap debuffs. Coincidentally, all three characters have some of sap and poison to lower the brave gains. You want to make use of most of the calls. Damage booster is probably a good option. Enacross have 20% chance of a full EX gauge fill, which could help a lot for a damage race for the fight. Cyan is an instant nuke LDCA that guarantees 850k damage as long as you have the necessary auras. Kais is the most important LDCA that you need to bring for non-Selphie team comps. Batteried launches will do significantly more damage than non-batteried ones. Delay will help to uptick the orb for Guardian and give you the necessary turns to do full party launches. Calls like D. Cecil, Quistis, and Cloud will help with that regards. For friend supports, you can consider one of the three, Selphie, Zac, and Ramza. You can bring Garnet Friend for her BT auras, but do watch out for her follow-up attacks and make sure you draw sufficient orb spacing. Do remember that the behemoth's LUFENIA orb is fatal. Now, let's focus on covering the individual boss mechanics. Let's start off with the easier boss of the two, the Guardian. The Guardian have the same mechanics as the one that you fought in Edgar Intersecting Wills. The LUFENIA auras will trigger at the start of the fight, 79% and 59% HP thresholds. The boss will gain 200% defense boost at the start of the fight and 300% defense boss at the 59% HP threshold. The maximum brave damage reduction aura is 70% and the maximum brave gain reduction aura is 70% as well. Do avoid accumulating 5 consecutive turns with a single unit. Otherwise, the Guardian will counter with Meteor Plus. Meteor Plus is a guaranteed hit, AOE BRV+HP attack. The boss will emit a dark blue aura after using it. The dark blue aura will grant a freeze field effect for 3 boss turns where your characters cannot gain Brave. As the effects are damaging, do avoid triggering it at all costs. Now, let's focus on covering the individual boss mechanics. The boss will activate Kraken mode once its HP dropped to 79%. The mode is visible by the color of the orb shown on the boss. The boss will upgrade its mode from Kraken to Marlboro and lastly to Ultimate Weapon based on the number of turns that Guardian takes. If it is still alive after a while in Ultimate Weapon mode, it will repeat the cycle by rotating back the Kraken mode and repeat the whole mode change process again. The Guardian becomes weak to Thunder while in Kraken program mode and is weak against Fire while in Marlboro program mode. On the screen, you can see the list of the moveset that the boss has while in each mode. As mentioned earlier, the Guardian countdown ability is non-fatal. It is an AOE BRV+HP attack and it will delete your party's next turn. There are runs that abuse the Guardian mechanics with Leela so that they can focus on getting turns back with Leela Wrap and instant turn mechanics. Now, let's focus on the tough cookie of the fight, the King Behemoth. Unlike the Guardian, the King Behemoth has only 2 LUFENIA aura triggers. It will gain 200% defense boost at the start of the fight and the defense will boost to 300% at the 79% HP threshold. Like the Guardian, the maximum Brave damage reduction aura is 70%. The maximum Brave gain reduction is 70%. The Behemoth has a standard damage rotation cycle that you can see on the right of the screen. Most of its turns will involve a HP attack while gaining Brave before it acts. You cannot freeze its Brave gains as the boss is immune to the freeze debuff, but you can tank or evade its attacks with damage mitigation or evasion. After it uses Heave, it will use Mighty Roar which gains 6 buffs along 1 million HP shield. It will follow up with Gyro Tail and Meteor on its following turns. If the shield didn't get broken on the subsequent turn after it activate Mighty Roar, it will use Meteor Plus which is a double Brave gain, AOE HP attack. This ability can bypass last stand. So it is always best to break the shield first before it gets its next turn. Now let's deep dive into the mechanics of the King Behemoth. The Mighty Roar will grant the Behemoth 6 non-framed buffs. Among the buffs, it involve a 50% ATK up along 1% HP regen and a power Brave regen. After that, it will follow up with a big red shield that is 1 million in value. The game will give a warning message, cancel HP nullification damage status. If the shield is not broken, it will use Meteor Plus. Meteor Plus is a Brave gain, AOE HP attack. It will cancel the shield effect. Do note that this attack can bypass last stand passive. It can also bypass bash or lock HP cannot drop below 50% mechanics. Other than being HP trigger happy, the Behemoth can cut in its turn at the following HP threshold, the 49% and 29% HP threshold. At the aforementioned thresholds, the Behemoth will warp its turn and gains 2 instant turn. Thanks to the consecutive turns, it is most likely that the Behemoth will trigger Meteor Plus. With 3 HP attacks lining up, it will most likely wipe out non-synergy characters if you don't have damage mitigation. To handle this mechanic, you can use one of the following methods. 1. Nuke the boss HP down from 50% to 0%. This is doable with 2 powerful BT auras along with Selphie. 2. Tank the boss HP attacks at the 49% HP threshold. Make use of a damage mitigation call like Warrior of Light LDCA or an evasion call like Redia LDCA. After the attack, continue to damage the boss. Summon or use your burst phase before you breach the 29% HP threshold. Finish off the Behemoth while in the summon or burst phase. 3. Bring a damage mitigation friend like Zac or Warrior of Light. As mentioned in the earlier slides, the Behemoth countdown ability is fatal. So place it on a higher priority to finish it first before you focus on the Guardian. With this, we have come to the end of the boss guide. Thank you for watching the video. If you like the video, please do give the video a like. Please do subscribe to my channel for future similar content. Bye.